Originating from one of the founders of the Crips, Wembley, Washington's East Crips, and forming into one of Los Angeles' most well-known, biggest, and dangerous gangs, the East Coast Crips are definitely one of Los Angeles' most well-known and prominent gangs. Today we'll talk about the East Coast Crips, the ECCs, the East Side Crips. We'll go over some history, prominent figures, and we'll also go over some crazy stories about this gang as well. Y'all stick around too, because we're gonna go into the current state of these guys as well and what they've been up to. Because from First Street all the way up to the 1200 block of the East Coast Crips, this gang definitely has a story to tell. Let's get into it. Yeah. All right. Welcome to CALI'S Most Dangerous. On November 28th, 2003, Nicole Williamson's and Renisha Bates were sitting in front of Nicole's parked car in front of her house, just chilling, keeping each other company. There were others sitting in front of the car too. It was Jeray Davis, Trevion Jackson, and 3 other men. Well, they were just chilling, keeping each other company, just laughing, listening to music, smoking, drinking, just regular shit. Well, all that quickly came to an end when a sedan occupied by 3 men drove up and a front seat passenger fired several shots at Nicole and her companions. Nicole was hit by a few bullets and unfortunately she passed from her bullet wounds. Although Nicole, Renisha, Davis, and Jackson were not gang members, they were in an area claimed by the Centerview Pyrus, and the 3 men standing around the car were Centerview members. Related from photographs, Jackson and Davis identified the shooter as Doheen Pratt, also known as Tiny D, a 12-year-old member of the Tiny Bastards clique, a subgroup for the 190 East Coast Crip gang, but no one at the scene could identify the 2 other men in the sedan. Neither the car nor the weapon were recovered, and the bullets recovered from the victims could have been fired from a .38 caliber or from a .358 revolver or a 9mm semi-automatic weapon. No cases were found at the scene as well. About a year and a half, in May of 2005, Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department detectives interviewed Jonte Christian, a member of the Bounty Hunter Bloods, about the November 2003 crimes. According to Christian's taped statement on the day of the shootings, Pratt and Johnson and another man named Marcus Lloyd, all known members of the East Coast Crips, visited Christian at his house and told Christian, "We stole his car." So Christian asked, "What y'all do?" They said, we got into a drive-by by the Centerview. It was like, "Yeah, we just busted at some tennis shoes." What is a diss to the Centerview gang member? Christian told the detectives that Johnson was the driver and that Pratt was the shooter. This was a version mission for Pratt, and that Johnson and Lloyd had given a gun to Pratt because he was trying to earn his stripes. According to Christian, the 3 men had 2 guns at the time of the shooting, a .38 Tech and a .38 caliber pistol, but only one was fired. The detective next interviewed Marcus Lloyd, who was 14 or 15 years old. So that means he was about 12 or 13 at the time of the shooting. When the detective told Lloyd that Christian had said Lloyd, Pratt, and Johnson were involved in the shooting, Lloyd offered to tape the conversation with Johnson. "Yeah, man, we gotta, it's all right." "Nah, it ain't all right. He was a young one, but he was still a snitch. He was still in these streets. Come on now. Keep up, man, keep up." All right, well, fast forward to June 1st, 2005. Lloyd and Johnson were placed together in a wired cell. Lloyd then, doing his best "I'm not a snitch" impersonation, asked Johnson, "How long, nigga, after you killed that bitch? And how long before? And how long after we went to jail?" A bunch of how longs. Well, Johnson answered, "About like 3 weeks later." Lloyd and Johnson then talked about being in jail shortly after the shooting and trying to remember the days that they had been in jail. In the end, Doheen was sentenced to a state prison term of 90 years in life in prison, and for his statements, Johnson, he received a modified prison term of 75 years in life in prison. I ain't gonna lie, man, it's a lot of lessons in this one though, man, but I'm gonna keep it short, man. You kids, stay in school and stop snitching, for real. I get it, man. Sometimes you're a product of your environment, but god damn, bro, man, he was better off just rolling the dice, man. Just seeing, just taking out the trial and seeing where it got him. Because that 15-year sentence or reduced sentence, it could not have been worth it at all. It couldn't have been worth it. Danger score, the East Coast Crips. The East Coast Crips are going to receive a danger score of a 9.5 out of 10 based off the gang's longest through violence, willingness to engage in war with anybody. setups, robberies, and even extortion. During my research, I found like some crazy ass stories about these guys. Like you already heard one though, and I'm definitely gonna get into a few more as we explain who are the East Coast Crips. But trust, man, it's way more. I want you guys to stick around to the end. I got a few side stories myself. Let's get into it. Who are the East Coast Crips? The East Coast Crips, or the ECCs, are a Crip gang located in Los Angeles, California. And despite the East Coast Crips being in the title of this gang's name, they have no attachment as far as the start of this gang to the actual East Coast of the United States. To be clear, the East Coast Crips are not a specific street gang, but an alliance of several street gangs, but they identify themselves basically as one big gang, the East Coast Crips. The East Coast Crips name actually is a reference to being on the east side of the 110 freeway, which acts as a divider between East Los Angeles and West Los Angeles as well. And yeah, they known for a lot on their blocks. It's like, you are out, you don't want to get shot. Just know I gave you the drop and just run, nigga, just run. The East Coast Crips are mainly an African-American gang, but they're definitely known to put on other races as well. I've seen some Mexicans and whites from the sets as well. You just gotta be a rep and be ready for any test, and trust, they got a lot of enemies, so you gotta come with your best. These niggas are damn near spread it all over Los Angeles, Cali. Matter of fact, all the way up to Riverside County as well. This is because the East Coast Crips are damn near a car of their own. And although the East Coast Crips definitely call themselves a gang, like we already mentioned, they're separated into different subsets. The East Coast Crips have a huge part in South Central's drug trade throughout the 1990s and the 2000s. Matter of fact, it was the main reasons why the Valencias and the East Coast Crips went to war in the first place. It's alleged that the East Coast Crips stole a bunch of kilos of drugs from the Valencia 13s, and it started an all-out war between the two gangs. But we're gonna get into that a little bit later, man. We're gonna get into that later. Let's get into some history of the East Coast Crips. On September 5th, 1987, members of the East Coast Crip gang, Daniel Wilkins, Donald Rose, and others were sitting in the living room in South Central California. Donald Rose, who was a new East Coast Crip member, he was being teased. He's been called a buster, said he was a mark, said he wouldn't with no action because he hadn't proved himself yet. Donald denied being a buster though. He said, fuck all that, I'm with all actions. Wilkins, who was a friend of Donald Rose, said, well, if you ain't, let's go. He gave Donald Rose a .22 caliber pistol. Wilkins and Rose left the apartment and walked towards 92nd and Central Avenue, the turf of the family Swan Bloods and the Mad Swan Bloods, enemies of the East Coast Crips. That same early morning though, a California Highway Patrol officer stopped a speeding and waving car on 97th and Central Avenue. The driver was arrested, but the passenger, victim William Dabbs, was left at the scene. He went to a phone booth in front of Mike's liquor store and he called his cousin Tyrone for a ride. During the conversation though, Tyrone heard someone say to William Dabbs, hey cuz, what's up? And Williams answered, what's up, man? That's all I got. Tyrone then heard Williams' telephone drop and sounds of a scuffle, followed by 2 gunshots. Williams Dabbs was taken by ambulance to Martin Luther King Hospital, where he died from a gunshot wound to his stomach. 3 months later, confidential informant Anthony Spartley gave investigating officers information about a gang-related robbery and murder. The officer did not link that information to the murder of Williams Dabbs though. Spartley, now in state prison, was again interviewed by investigating officers. After several interviews with Spartley, in August of 1989, the investigating officers linked William Dabbs' murder to Donald Rose and Wilkins. Both were arrested. Wilkins confessed to aiding and abetting Rose, who he said robbed and shot Williams Dabbs. Donald Rose did not confess. At the trial, both of the men were convicted of murder and sentenced to 25 years to life in prison. Now, this is all the way back in 1982, basically when gang banging was growing at a rapid pace. But the East Coast Crip history goes back to basically the beginning of Cripping. History of the East Coast Crips. What card they won with subsets, click allies, past occurrence beefs, and a lot of other things. Man, the history with these niggas is deep, like deep. And it all started with the creation of the East Side 62nd Street Crips, which started around 1974, which led to an alliance now known as the East Coast Crips. But even though the 6 Deuce East Coast Crips was the first to put the East Coast Crips on their name, they are not the oldest gang in the umbrella. Some other gangs eventually joined the East Coast Crips and Village, but they had already been around. The East Coast Crips history goes back to the foundation of the Crips, and it started with the prominent face of the Crips, Raymond Lee Washington. Raymond Lee Washington was definitely an original trophy in the hood. Like, he might as well be like the face of trophy in the hood. Like, the definition, when it pops up, Google it right now, this nigga face better pop up, I promise. He was born on August 3rd, 1953, and raised from the east side of Los Angeles, California. And him, and along with Stanley Tooker Williams, are the founders of what would later be known as the Crips. In 1969, Williams organized several neighborhood kids in the clique called the Baby Avenues, aka the Avenue Crips. And by late 1971, the Crips were being referred to as the Crips, and their reputation in Los Angeles was growing. It was around that time when Washington met Stanley Tooker Williams, who lived on the west side of Los Angeles, California. Raymond Washington formed the original East Side Crips, and by 1971, new Crip identities began to form in other neighborhoods on the east side, with the introduction of the 43rd Street Crips and the Avalon Garden Crips. Eventually, East Side 62 Crips came around 1974. Most indications suggest that the 6 Deuce East Coast Crips are the first neighborhood Crip set in the east side of Los Angeles, California. And the creation of the set by Raymond Washington inspired the creation of the East Coast Crip Alliance, in which other older gangs eventually joined. Unfortunately, Raymond Lee Washington was killed on August 9, 1979. No one was ever arrested for Washington's murder, but it was rumored that he was killed by a Hoover member. Can any OGs or anyone tapped in confirm this? Was this a Hoover member who was responsible for Raymond Lee Washington's death? Y'all let me know in the comments, man. Let's have a conversation about this as well. When it comes to cars and umbrellas, the East Coast Crips follow their own umbrella, but they are also known to fall under the Deuce car, as well as some East Coast gangs are affiliated with the neighborhood car, as well as been affiliated with the Black Crips as well. Being so deep and heavy affiliated with these cars, meaning East Coast Crips are gonna have a lot of enemies. And don't test them, because they got crazy tendencies, fists, guns, or whatever. They with it all. At approximately 7 p.m. on June 12, 2002, 2 men armed with a handgun entered the courtyard of an apartment complex on South Broadway in Los Angeles, California, in which Michael Ray Green, an admitted member of the 6'9" East Coast Crip gang, lived and sold drugs. The men asked someone in the courtyard to get Green. As Green walked down the stairs, the man with the gun asked, "Is that him?" to Green, and he said, "It's that fool," pointing at Michael Mallich, who was in the courtyard selling drugs. Well, the men took action, and they approached Mallich. Once close enough, without saying a word, the men with the gun shot 4 shots at Mallich. Mallich died as a result of 3 gunshot wounds. Earlier that day, Green had been informed by one of his roommates that a member of the Swan Blood Gang was in his apartment complex. Green made a phone call. "Call us homegirls, call the homies up, tell the East Coast to come pull up." That's exactly what he did. At the hangout, Harris saw several members of the Crip gang get into 2 vehicles. 2 of the men had guns that they had acquired from Green's brother's car. As Harris returned to the South Broadway apartment, she saw 4 or 5 of the gang members getting out of the car. She witnessed the shooting of Mallich. Green later told her he was the mastermind of it all. Ultimately, Green was sentenced to a prison term of 75 years in prison. Yeah, the East Coast Crips is not to be fucked with. It's always a story to tell about these fools, especially if you're a rival. Rivals of the East Coast Crips. The East Coast Crips enemies include the Pueblo Bishop Bloods, the Massawa Bloods, the Bishop Watts Bloods, the Athens Parks Bloods, the Roanoke 20 Outlaw Bloods, the Denver Lame Gangster Bloods, the Bloodstone Villains, along with all brand games, the Compton Pyrus. The East Coast Crips are also known to feud with fellow Crip gangs too. It's up. They said it's up and it's smoke with anybody who wants it, man. They pretty much go to war with pretty much the Broadway Gangster Crips, the Mafia Crips, the Kitchen Crips, the 8-Tray Gangster Crips, the 4-Tray Gangster Crips, the Avalon Gangster Crips, and pretty much all gangs that fall under the gangster Crip or trade card. The East Coast Crips used to be really close with the Gray Street Crips, but in 2008, the two gangs were involved in an altercation that turned to violence, was led to gunplay, and then that was followed by an all-out war between the two gangs. They're also in a deadly rivalry with all sets of the Hoovers, including the Five Deuce Hoover Crips. They feud with Serenio gangs like the Pereira Flats, the Concho Flats. The most wide-known and probably the most violent gang war was with the Valencia 13s. This war was one of the most deadly and unfortunately the most racial wars in Los Angeles, California. On the afternoon of April 15, 2005, Colleen Enrique watched from the front porch as Zaire Leva and other Latino men shouted racial slurs and an N-word and made gang hand signs at an approaching African-American men who returned gang signs. Enrique described the group of men as Latino members of the locally predominant Florencia 13 gang. Enriquez did not recognize the African-American man though. He continued walking and he turned on 66th Street. Well, about 15 to 20 minutes later, Enriquez saw the same African-American man, but this time he returned, accompanied with a known East Coast Crip member, Stephen Patterson. Enrique recognized Patterson because she had seen him on 66th Street on 3 prior occasions and knew that he had lived on a particular house on 66th Street. Enrique and her mother, Esther Gonzalez, went inside their house and watched the rest of the incident while peeking through the blinds of the windows. Patterson and his companions drew guns and began firing at the group of men. Enriquez heard about 4 to 5 shots, then seen Oliva fall to the ground, and the gunman whirled back towards 66th Street. Unfortunately, Oliva died from a single gunshot wound to his face. In the aftermath, the trial court sentenced Patterson to a prison term of 50 years to life. This case is only one story about how these guys used to go back and forth. Like, bruh, these guys used to go at it, like smoke everywhere. Like, whenever they met up, man, it was just smoke, man. Like, hit the blunt, bro, pass it, whatever. But let's get into how these gangs got into this war, though. Beef with the Valencia 13s. Look, man, this beef goes way back to like 1999. It's alleged that the start of it was from the East Coast Crip members stealing drugs from the Valencia 13s. So the East Coast Crips and the Valencia 13s, man, they actually used to be close, man. They used to get along, bro, or at least they used to do bits together and stuff like that. And then, you know, at least in the still booming and crack business of Los Angeles, California. Well, one night the East Coast Crip members were driving for a delivery out of state from California back into Los Angeles. It was supposed to be a simple transfer, man. They pick up the packs, you know, driving back to the States, but they never showed up. The Valencians met up and they was expecting to meet the East Coast there, but they weren't there. Instead, the East Coast Crip members kept the 300 kilos of drugs and then they distributed them off to their members, while also leaving the Valencia 13s ready to go to war. This is exactly what happened too. With several casualties coming from both sides and also members losing their lives to prison, this war had a notorious reputation around the city of Los Angeles. Not even that, man, around the nation. This war got so bad that it was alleged that it led to a lot of racial tension in the area as well. Matter of fact, it was alleged that F-13's leader, Arturo Castellanos, sent out word in 2004 from his Pelican Bay State Prison that he wanted the Valencia 13s to begin cleansing against the East Coast Crips. This led to several more killings, including Martha's Mathis, who was also known as Hamburger, who was a 23-year-old from the 7-6 East Coast Crips, who was shot by a Valencia 13 member. Look, man, it's safe to say it was a lot of bloodshed said on both sides, bro. A lot of lives taken and all that, you know, so it was definitely cool to see this war come full circle and finally come to an end. In 2019, high-ranking Valencia 13 members and East Coast members were able to come to an agreement to officially put this war to an end. It was a truce, man. They wanted a truce between the two sides. So after several weeks of talks between the two gangs, it was finally a truce. Now, it's always bad apples on each side, man. Somebody who's going to just speak out, just do some stupid shit, and try to go above the program, as they always say. But for the most part, man, it's neutral, man. Like, you know, it's cool with each other, man. It's dialogue and everything like that, man. After a few minutes between the gangs, there was a set of rules put in place between both sides, and they both had to abide by this. There's basically no more guns used to kill your brother. If it's beef, all right, man, like first things first, we can put these guns down, let's put these hands up, let's settle it and go from there. Like, we ain't gotta be buddy or buddy, nothing like that, but let's stop with all the killing, you know what I'm saying? Like Truth be told us a lot of Florencians and, you know, East Coast states, you can see they're pretty cool with each other and stuff like that now, but that just shows you, man, it's a great representation of what LA can do, what California can do if we know how to put our differences aside. This truce was set up by some OGs in prison, and it definitely sent the right message to Los Angeles. Allies of the East Coast Crips. Allies of the East Coast Crips include all members of the Roll No, neighborhood, and the Deuce card. This includes gangs like the Harlem Rolling 30 Crips, their neighborhood Rolling 40 Crips, their neighborhood Rolling 50 Crips, Fight Crip, the neighborhood Rolling 60 Crips, the Menlos, the neighborhood Rolling 90 Crips, the neighborhood Rolling Hundreds, and they also are cool with the Hard Time Hustle Crips. The list of allies isn't that big, but being that big of a gang and being affiliated with, you know, with other big gang umbrellas, that means, you know, they really don't need any other allies, and they deep ones themselves. Prominent figures from the set, and who the OGs, the YGs, the rappers, shit like that. The East Coast Crips have a lot of prominent members who put in the work to become factors from their sets. But first, doing my research, I found a list of members who are no longer with us, so rest in peace to a few of them. They include William Major, also known as Big Bub, Anthony Hunter, also known as T-Tiger, Keith Williams, also known as Baby BGK, and Gregory Watson II, also known as Greedy. Some of the OGs include OG Quake, Bulldog, Paul Gary Wallace, also known as Little Doc, and Jay Nina. They have some rappers though who have been putting in work for the set as well. You know, you got Spider Low, definitely, man. He's been doing this thing for a while. OG when it comes to the rap game, especially on the West Coast. It's also Lil Reese, man. He's dope too. A lot of cool features, man. He got some with Sada Baby, man, and even the solo tracks, bro. It's just real dope stuff, man. Real like West Coast kind of catchy tracks, bro. And then, you know, you got True Kills, man. Bro hard too. A lot of funny lyrics, but it's a lot of like gangster appeal in it, bro. You gonna fuck with him too for sure. It's also P1, like this nigga hard, bro. Like crazy storytelling, and his flow is real aggressive, but it's subtle enough to keep you engaged. You know, it's also Nina Boy, like he used to rap on a day back in the days, but he's actually like more of a YouTuber and stuff like that now. And he makes some cool content, man. Dude's funny, man. He's always on some shit, man. Whether it's drama or whatever, it's gonna keep you engaged. But yeah, man, y'all definitely gotta go check them all out, man. You won't be disappointed at all. You will not be disappointed. Current state of the East Coast Crips. The East Coast Crips are definitely still active, and they remain to be one of the most active and well-respected gangs in Los Angeles. They've even grown to the point where they've branched out to other states as well, such as Oregon, New Jersey, New York, Arkansas, Florida. But y'all let me know in comments if I'm leaving out any of y'all states, man. Rep for your state, nigga. Rep for your state. Yeah, East Coast Crips are still known to do the most. Cross them trying to act hard, they gonna make you look like a joke. Bars, nigga, I'm killing you motherfuckers tonight, man. Let's go. Now the East Coast Crips move how they want. If you want war, they ready for smoke. But the truce with the forensic 13s shows how much the gangs have progressed. It shows the maturity for these gangs to put their differences aside and decide to put a truce in the forefront. I mean, it's like, come on, bro. We got kids, man. We want to make sure that they can get home safe. We want to make sure their kids can get home safe. And we want to make sure ultimately that you can get home safe too, man. As a father, I get it 100%, man. And as mothers, I will hopefully, you know, they get it too. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to them, man. Shout out to the truth. Shout out to the East Coast Crips, bro. Shout out to everybody. Y'all let me know what y'all think. Like and subscribe. Hit that bell if it went well, man. Let me know in the comments what y'all think. Any crazy stories? Like I said, let's have a conversation about these guys. Anything else though? Did I miss anything? Did I get anything wrong, man? Like y'all let me know about that too, man. With that being said, it's Scar signing out. Y'all stay safe and dangerous out there.